So I gotta say that's a pretty warm welcome from the folks then at South by.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hi, everyone.
Hey, thrilled to be
you.
back.
Hello, friend.
Happy anniversary.
that's an interesting point because I think South by kind of has a little claim to Mr. Robot and the success that it's had.
Absolutely.
They saw it first and they were the first to champion it. I mean, coming out of the Audience Award last year, how did that kind of affect the trajectory of that first season?
Oh, you asking me?
Asking anybody.
Anybody.
Wow.
He's
well,
asking
we didn't
us
know.
then.
Yeah, us exactly. We didn't know what to expect. I mean, we came here last year, and it was a significantly smaller room where we screened it, and it was an interesting experience. I didn't know what to expect. It was certainly a subject matter that has become more relevant and prevalent as we continue to film the show with all the things that have been going on in the world. So it's just been a remarkable experience to be on this journey. And I mean, winning the South by Southwest Audience Award was probably the most exciting thing from the get-go. I mean, that really did start off the whole journey, and we just couldn't be more grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Sam, when you started out writing this project, was it an objective of yours to make sure that it was reflective of what the tech world is actually like and what a hacker would actually go through?
Yeah, I mean, are we swearing? We're not swearing, right? No, I won't swear. I won't swear. I'll keep it clean. But yeah, I grew up a nerd, and a lot of my friends are nerds and coders and in InfoSec, and and some of them are hackers. And I had a poor attempt at hacking in college and got on academic probation, and so. But I wanted to tell a story about that culture because I found these people very interesting, and I was watching all this cheesy crap, TV shows and movies. Some of them I still adore, but they're not great at representing, what that world looks like and what those people are and what hacking really is. Which is not, by the way, cheesy graphics, cheesy ones and zeros flying at you. So yeah, that was a huge motivation for writing Mr. Robot.
So in what sense did that affect the early writing? How did it shape that character?
Well, it's exactly that. It started with the character. So I just knew I wanted to focus on who this person was, and so I drew a lot of that from my own experiences, my friends' experiences, and sort of not just all the qualities, positive and negative, the loneliness, the anxiety, the social anxiety, the drug addiction. So just mixed up everything, and that sort of started formulating Elliot. It was actually more about getting that character down and less about the plot at first.
Now, Rami, how much were you aware of the tech demands going into the show?
Well, once he told me the way his vision for it and exactly what he just said, how he wanted to portray it in a way that was just real, I was like, oh, I'm going to be typing. Everything we were going to be doing there was no green screens involved, so. No, really, it's like I'm used to just knowing my character and having my lines down and doing some crazy weird shit, and but you have to come in a little bit early and I have to look at all the animation and the graphics and go through it with all the tech guys.
Yeah, it's like everyone who shoots computer screens, every movie, every show, it's always green screen, which means that the actor is doing this just play because they're not seeing what they're typing, which automatically throws me out of it. And then on top of that, they also put bullshit into the screens that doesn't make any sense anyway. So it was really important to us and to the actors, I think, just to add that credibility of like, okay, no, this is actual real code that's been vetted by our tech consultants, and Rami, you actually have to type this code into it, which just took forever, but it was worth it.
How's the typing now heading into season 2? Better?
Oh, yeah, it's gotten so much better.
That's a hard sell right there. So, Sam, what kind of resources did you have on the tech side? You mentioned a tech consultant, but who are you working with, and what kind of info were you getting from them?
Well, we had a couple of tech consultants, guys from the InfoSec, and actually my assistant, who's also from cybersecurity, Cora Donna, who I actually promoted this year to a writer. And we also had somebody from the FBI cybercrime unit as a consultant. And we would also use, news and articles and just do our own research and just get as much information as possible. But the key was trying to get those screens locked down, and we would, there was literally an app that I think somebody wrote up after when Terrell hacks into the phone, Anwar's phone in episode 3. There's literally an app that we literally go through the steps of this app, and I think people started downloading it afterwards, which is was not our point, but
I'm just trying to make a TV show.
Yeah, we're trying to be accurate, man.
Now, Christian, did
Yes,
you?
hi.
Were you able to?
Just taking it in. I'm sorry. Yeah,
It's a lot.
Yeah.
How involved were you on the tech side of things?
Ooh, yeah, I was pretty much behind the 8 ball there, but I wanted to come in, of course, and impress Sam in the beginning. I didn't have a lot of time before we signed on, but I went immediately to Google search and Wikipedia and looked up all these terms and learned everything as much as I possibly could. And it is an ever-evolving situation, so to stay current, it's very, very tricky. As soon as I learned everything and got there, I mean, that day, literally all those terms were already outdated and completely null and void. So, yeah, again, I was behind the 8 ball. But I've gotten, I think, much better since.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel better about it.
Yeah. We'll be there. We'll get there by season 5.
Perfect. Okay, great. Good.
To what extent were the scripts shaped by what was physically possible? Did you ever run into a circumstance where you had an idea for what you wanted to do narratively, but it just wasn't going to work out tech-wise?
What do you mean?
Well, like if Elliot wanted to do an amazing hack that involved a certain some kind of hacker
and it wasn't
gymnastics,
plausible?
It just wasn't possible.
No, we would never. And see, the thing is, I read a lot of tech blogs, so I kind of knew what was plausible and what wasn't. And sometimes there would be something that I didn't know, but we would always research it before we would go down that road. I think that's a slippery slope into Cheeseville that I wanted to avoid.
I mean, authenticity in terms of the show is there is that very literal sense that this does have to reflect hacking in the tech world in a very real way, but just the premise of the show and the arc that Elliot ends up going through, you have to make that really work for the show to work on its own. You have to be convincing. So, I mean, what kind of work went into making Elliot, who really is kind of this outcast and this person who does shut himself off, to someone who was an authentic human being?
Well, it's that's conversations between me and Rami. We had to talk about. Look, you've seen the classic cliche nerd in TV. That's the other thing we wanted to avoid. That quote unquote nerd that is an outcast and is bullied, and and that's not real true to life either. There's something in between there that I think people were missing. And so Rami and I would talk a lot about the darkness of it, because part of the reason why Elliot has these anxieties and part of the reason why he is on the computer all the time is because he's lonely. And what does that mean? And the pain behind that. He's not just lonely because people don't want to talk to him. He's lonely. I mean, he actually, if you think about it in the pilot, people, Ollie tries to talk to him and he shuts him down. And Angela invited him to his birthday party and he doesn't show up. So there's something about him and it's about his insecurities. So we try to make it more about that, less about these external, influences.
And Rami, was there a learning curve to that throughout the first season?
Not really. I mean, I looked at him and always tried to humanize him. Any character, I just try to humanize and make them relatable. And I mean, you can come up with answers to justify anything you do as a human being. So I figure I could do that with him, and you know, I saw a really complicated character I was drawn to, and you know, a guy that was suffering, just struggling to survive in his own skin and be normal. And he, you know, he had this tool through a computer, but you know, in a sense, it wasn't doing him any good. I mean, he's lacking some type of human connection. And you know, we shot some scenes in the pilot that I remember staring at, you know, Angela's Facebook account and wishing to have that type of life. And it really got me sad. And then, you know, it's very sad. I was like, I feel bad for this guy. But it was easy to connect to that aspect of him. Yeah, I think you know, we could all relate to having that loneliness and sometimes being distanced by technology and you know, the manicured Facebook pages that we create. So there were some things I would read that he was saying, and I'm like, man, that's getting me. It was it was easy to connect to on so many levels, and then I think that's what people have found very endearing in him, his honesty, and as he goes through the turmoil that he does.
Sam, at what point did the voiceover come into the format of the screenplay?
Right away. I mean, I mean, I'm going to reveal something about myself that's a little personal, but I talk to myself. I don't know how many people do that, but okay.
It's just
so I
you,
guess
I think.
I guess it's just me. I get it.
Do you start off every morning by saying,
Hello, friend.
what I'm about to
I'll
tell you
you,
is
yeah.
top secret?
Plead the fifth. That's between me and my imaginary friend. And one of the things that I really wanted to do, when I started writing the VO, I knew that because Elliot didn't talk to people that much, I really needed to somehow externalize his thoughts and feelings. And so initially I was like, okay, VO, but we've seen VO done a million times, and I love VO. I mean, it's like the cardinal rule in screenwriting. Never write VO, it's lazy. And I think that's like the dumbest, do not listen to that advice. I mean, some great films, Clockwork Orange, Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, these are great films that have great VO. So why, you know, but it's how you use it and how do you make it into its own kind of thing and its own character. And that's sort of when I came up with the idea that Elliot actually has a relationship with us, and it sort of fits his psyche in terms of, you know, because dude kind of sees things and makes up some people. So, so it kind of all felt organic and made a lot of sense.
Now, Christian, you had a particularly tough challenge with the season, as everyone was just informed, if they hadn't seen the first season,
Right.
of not being real in a very physical sense.
Yeah,
I think that's the most politically correct to say.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, how do you do that? I mean, in terms of being an actor, is that just not trying to think about it, or is it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I had an instinct really from the get-go, even after the pilot, that there was something up with this guy. And, you know, I sat down with Sam at our first meeting, and I asked him, you know, what is the deal here? You know, I'm very suspicious. And he said, do you really want to know? And I said, yeah, I think I do. And he told me, and then he told me the deeper relationship between the two characters. So I was just ecstatic. You know, I thought, you know, because it's like you have that idea, but you think nobody will ever actually do that. I mean, that's just too crazy, you know. Never make it an imaginary character. Yeah, I was thrilled. I was ecstatic. And then just proceeded to be as real as humanly possible and as real as Elliot imagines me to be.
In a practical sense, what was involved with the day-to-day of that twist? Because I think I saw in a blooper reel, some people were making eye contact with Christian. And
Yeah, I like to tease them a lot. Yeah, I would have a good time with that.
Was there more to it than characters aren't looking at Mr. Robot?
Well, we also picked moments where they would switch off. So the biggest moment would be in episode 5 when they've returned back from Steel Mountain, and Elliot sort of kind of goes into the background and Mr. Robot takes over and he sort of engages with Darlene. So we kind of just saw the mechanics of how one takes over. And we did that a couple of times throughout. But honestly, it was kind of like what Christian said. You know, I didn't want him obviously playing a hallucination. That even sounds a little strange. It was he is real to Elliot, and so we wanted to keep that because otherwise the stakes wouldn't feel as real. So,
I mean, again, on the topic of authenticity, selling that twist, you have to spend a whole season working up to it, essentially. I mean, what were your concerns leading into that reveal? And I guess what precautions were you taking throughout to make sure that when it did happen, it wasn't this shock for the audience?
well, I personally thought we were telegraphing it from the beginning. I mean, I didn't try and look. Here's the thing: I don't necessarily want to trick the audience. Even when we were breaking the whole season, it's not about getting gotcha moments. I think those wind up feeling cheap and empty. And honestly, going into episode 9, I mean, I assumed people kind of got it by that point. And so it really was about how did it feel to Elliot? How did it feel to that guy? So in that moment in the cemetery, it was less about the shock of realizing what was going on, but more about realizing it through Elliot's eyes and keeping that authentic and real. And so that to me is what our twists are. It's just revelation, character revelations. If we're doing our job right, it's our deep character emotional revelations, and it's less about trying to trick you or pull one over on you. Well, thank you.
Sounds very enthusiastic. Rami, it was a clip we saw in the recap. Elliot in the cemetery. I was wondering if you could tell me what that day
I
was
didn't
like.
see Elliot in that recap. But, okay. Yeah.
What was it like? What was it like on that day? I mean, it's such a character culmination for the whole season.
Oh yeah, that was something I was very concerned with, and ever since we shot the pilot, I knew it was a very big moment, and I just wanted to make sure that was treated with the kind of respect of that moment of someone coming to that realization is a very tragic position to have your mind and heart and all of those things happen. So shooting at a cemetery, as morbid as it is, it does put you in a certain mindset. It's also awful bringing a camera crew into a cemetery.
It was also, was it Carl? Whose birthday? Or was it Portia's? Somebody's birthday that day.
Yeah.
So we had to bring out a cake. And it got weird. I'm not going to lie.
That would yeah. It was a little weird. But
Every time.
we ended up going off to the side and just having our moment and just kind of staying in a headspace that worked for us. And by that time, Christian and I mean, we were on the same page as with Sam, so we had a feeling that it was going to go well, and just to play it as earnestly as possible, every take as if it was happening for the first time, which a moment like that can be very difficult to keep drudging up. But I felt like we were in a really good groove early on, and we were almost at the end of the season, so the amount of just effort and emotional energy exerted, I feel pretty agitated, so it's not as hard as it to get to those places towards the end of.
Yeah, and we do a lot of rolling takes, meaning we don't cut. We just keep doing the scene over and over and over, and I think that helps too with your rhythm, and you just get into it more.
Yeah.
Because the minute you call cut, there's all these people that want to come on to set, and the hair and the this and that, and then so it kind of breaks up the rhythm. So I think we just kept going. We just kept doing it. Yeah.
It is helpful. Should remember that this season, please.
We are going to get to that in a second. But I think people can line up if they want to ask some questions. We'll toss the mic every once in a while. But yeah, if you have a question that doesn't involve a selfie or hugs, I think those can come later. But no, I'm curious. I mean, coming back to South by 1 year later, after that audience award, I mean, what is the biggest difference between where you guys are at mentally with the show now versus back then?
Well, I mean, physically, they let us bring a Ferris wheel in here, so we know we're doing something right, and this place is packed with all of you lovely people. So, I mean, just the appreciation for the show. We really can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you.
To get that response and to have people eager for this next season it's a real honor and humbling. So, thank you very much.
Yes.
I think we can go to our first audience question.
Sure, thank you. My name is Andy Carvin, and I run an online news service called Reportedly, which focuses on human rights and social justice issues around the world. And watching the series last year, the influence of Anonymous was quite obvious through a lot of it. But I'm curious, given your backgrounds as Egyptian Americans, did the Egyptian revolution and the counter-revolution that followed it inform either the approach to the storyline or the way Elliot as a character approached himself as an activist?
Well, actually, it's great that you mentioned that. The Arab Spring, I always say, is, the thing about Elliot is that I had the angst down, I had the social anxiety, I had all that, but I didn't know how, like, angst can just turn negative really quick. And I didn't know, because I don't think anger is necessarily a negative emotion. It doesn't have to be. And I think that's, you know, I went to Egypt right after the Arab Spring happened, and to see my cousins who were like young and using technology to bring about this revolution, that to me, it was that third piece for Elliot that clicked for me, which was, you know, anger as channeled in a positive way, anger to actually make a difference in your society. And so it was actually quite critical in developing Elliot's character.
Was there anything from the news in the past year, as you were writing season 2, that struck you as something that could be worked in?
Well, what's weird is, and I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm a fortune teller, so please don't think that. But what's weird is that we're really going into thematically talking a lot about encryption and privacy, and then this whole thing with Apple and Tim Cook happened, which I actually think is a really important issue that we're going to really get into the next 10 years or so. And it's not something that I think people really understand the nuances of, but it's actually kind of a crucial piece of, you know, it's going to be an interesting public discourse about it, because it really brings up that idea of the rights to privacy, and do we have that and do we not? And, you know.
Sounds like you're a fortune teller. I don't know, but that sounds...
Yeah, no, I am not.
I ask him for lotto numbers every week now.
Okay, next audience question.
Yeah, my name's Jordan Brown. I studied film as my undergrad, and don't worry, I'm not trying to give you a reel. But like someone that studied it, I think you start to appreciate things that maybe people who haven't don't see, like really long camera takes where you're not getting cuts between cameras. And with that in mind, I watched a scene that wasn't in the reel, and I don't want to spoil it for everyone. The scene. And the suicide scene. How did you do that? I watched it probably 20 times and I can't.
Thanks for not giving it away.
And I didn't. Well, sorry.
Okay. No, I'm kidding.
I can't figure it out. Will you please tell me how you did it?
Oh, come on. You can't really ask me that, right?
Like,
you don't want to know. You should like figure out your own way. You're going to do a suicide scene one of these days, right?
In a movie.
I don't want to ruin it for you.
thank you.
We just touching briefly on your direction. Season 2, you're doing you're directing every single episode. What was the motivation behind that decision, and do you think you're going to make it?
I mean, I do. I mean, the motivation is basically I'm a control freak when it comes to the look of the show. And I was on set every day basically anyway last season, or I tried to be when I wasn't flying back and forth to LA editing. And honestly, you know, most showrunners write, edit, shoot simultaneously, like, you know, they do it all concurrently and they can multitask. I'm just not that way. I mean, I'm more of like the kind of more feature filmmaking brain of like you write it, you shoot it, you cut it. And so directing all the episodes kind of helps, you know, it kind of fits in that structure a little bit better.
Christian and Rami, how did you receive the news that you'd be seeing a lot more of Sam in season 2?
It's a sad day. I'll say. Well,
No,
yeah.
you go. Go.
Look, I don't know if I'd ever want my showrunner to be doing all of those things, but after a season with him, I realized if there's someone who can do it, he can do it. And always felt like, you know, I was doing my best work when he was around, and I think that goes for the rest of the cast and our crew. I mean, he sets such a great tone and has a distinct vision, and of course, no one knows what's going to happen in this story except Sam. So why wouldn't you want him directing everything? You're going to bring, you know, you can bring in a guest director every week, but you know, sometimes you have to kind of guide them in the direction that, you know, your character's been going, and ultimately they don't know as much. They can't know as much. So we're fortunate to have it done, and it's done in a way where has everything written already, and you know the schedule's already mapped out. So something mildly comforting in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're phenomenally fortunate. Like he said, he was there 98% of the time first season, and now having him there it is great, because the way the schedule is, because all the scripts are written, you know, on one day we're shooting a scene from episode 201, 203, 207, and
209.
209. I mean, I mean, how the schedule was done is remarkable and highly unusual, and I think extraordinarily impressive. But yeah, like Rami said, if there was somebody new coming in every week, there's no way they would know where we were at a particular moment.
He's a mad genius, everyone. Mad genius.
Now, you're only a couple weeks into shooting season 2, but have you seen a difference in how production's going, having taken on the role of directing on those episodes now?
Well, I mean, look, we're a lot more efficient. I don't know if we want to bore everyone with the details, but, you know, like, for example, if we go to a location and it's in episodes 1, 4, and 7, you know what I mean? You have to, in traditional television, you know, you go there for episode 1, then the 4th week you go back, and it's a little silly if you're doing something serialized, you know what I mean? So for me, it's like we just shot all the scenes in that location, 1, 4, and 7, and we would shoot it all out. So things got a lot more efficient.
Like a movie.
It's basically like a film, yeah.
Like a film.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's been going great so far this week.
Right, guys?
What do you think, Rami?
Yeah, I mean, stepping in, it was just like it was a well-oiled machine. Really was. I was a bit trepidatious doing that. I mean, I shot scenes from the 7th episode, my first day. So.
Yeah, and never before have, like, you know, we had a read through a couple weeks ago where
We did the whole 10.
we did the whole, yeah, I mean, it was a
was a long day.
12-hour read through, but, you know, I mean, it was incredible. I've never seen anything like that.
You didn't give me that much direction these last few days.
No.
That must be good.
Yeah.
We can do another audience question.
Hi, my name is Ariel. Thank you guys so much for being here. My question is about race in Mr. Robot, and from what we've seen in the first season, as a viewer, kind of my conception is that Elliot, you can read him as biracial, which is super exciting for me as a biracial person who sees very little representation. So my question is kind of how much intentionality is behind that? You know, what's your thinking as the showrunner? You know, when you're writing the character, the great question earlier, you kind of got into it a little bit, but is that something you were looking for? Is that something that you want to explore, and how?
I mean, diversity you're talking about?
Diversity, but also just in the question of Elliot's character and how much of that is his identity, and if that's something that you wanted to do, or if that's just kind of fortunately how it worked out.
It just worked out that way. I was seeing all ethnicities for Elliot, and Rami just, blew me away, and he's obviously brilliant as Elliot. But look, I'm Egyptian American. I'm not defined by that, though, and that's the weird thing. I remember growing up, and telling people I want to be a filmmaker, and I went to NYU, and because of my ethnicity, they expected me to write a film about me growing up as an Arab American, and coming of age story of how I was an Arab American, and how and it was like, well, it informs who I am, but I'm not defined by. That's not the only thing about me. And so that's the thing that I like about Elliot and all of our characters who have different ethnicities. We don't necessarily make a deal about it. It's who they are. And by the way, that's life, right? You have friends of all different. That's just my reality. I have friends of all different ethnicities, and we don't sit there and talk about race every day. But that's just, but it informs what we do and how we act sometimes. But otherwise, at the end of the day, we're just people. And I think that's kind of the world and kind of the worldview I look through when I cast our characters or create our characters.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Rami, you were practicing typing on season 1. Has there been any has there been any specific homework going into season 2?
There has been, yes. Yeah, I like the off season, I guess. I pilfer Sam for as much information ahead of time as possible, because I want I like homework. The research, the homework, all that stuff is some of my favorite times getting ready for this role. So I just want to be as well equipped as possible, so I can step in and get little direction from Sam.
He's being a little coy because he can't talk about the specific research, but
yeah, there's specific research. I will say that. Very specific.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if we knew you got really good at ninja star throwing, I think we would kind of know something about season 2.
Yeah.
Christian, obviously you're still with us.
Can I tell them the story about episode 9?
You do whatever you want.
Okay, so on set we're shooting. We get the script for 9 goes out.
Yeah.
Obviously, you all know what happened in 9. And he knows this already. I've had conversations with him. You're in season 2. You're not going away. But he pulls me aside after reading episode. He's like, "Are you sure? Because I just read this and it kind of feels like I'm done right now." And I'm like, "Christian, no, we went over this." And anyway,
I like the character so much. I'd be so sad. Yeah.
Don't do this.
Yeah. So again, it was nice to have him there to be able to ask these questions.
So now that Mr. Robot's the origin of his character is out in the open, continuing his story, is there a sense that he can evolve? He is coming from Elliot, who is constantly changing. I'm trying to be as generous as possible with these season 2 questions, but I guess what are the limitations of writing a character like this?
Oh, that's to me.
Or portraying.
Look, let's just say this. It's weird, right? You're trying to get inside the mind of a person who is kind of going through this dissociation, this identity dissociation. What does that look like? And apart from talking to psychologists who we also consult with, and they get like they're kind of looking at it from the other end and kind of getting the evidence of it, but they're also not inside the person's head either. So we're just sort of going by gut and emotion in terms of how does that look like? How do we frame this? And I haven't seen it done before, and I'm not saying that it hasn't been, that was just a very interesting process, and we sort of just went again back to what is the emotional truth of every situation. You know, what is Elliot struggling with, and like, you know, going back to when when people do talk to themselves, like when you do argue with yourself and have those inner conflicts, what would that look like, you know?
I mean, Christian, I mean, what's it been like stepping back into this character? I guess putting that hat back on and.
Yeah, I mean, walking into the trailer, seeing my hat and putting my glasses on, it was like, yeah, it's like getting into the shoes of an old friend. I mean, it really feels great. It is a fun character. It kind of felt like we'd never stopped, really. It just feels like we're continuing on with the story and just moving forward and learning more and discovering more, and it's a continual emotional journey that we seem to all be on together. It's great.
And we go to the audience.
Hi, my name is Rosemary. I just want to say thank you, Sam, for making tech careers in general aspirational and look so freaking cool on the screen, especially when there's such a need, like just in general. So I guess my question is for Rami and Christian, did it motivate you guys? I mean, we spoke earlier about doing homework, but did it motivate you guys to learn any of the languages? Like, are you now masters in Python or Java?
Naturally. No.
No. Thank you. Awesome.
But it is enticing and appealing, and I'm glad other people can do it. So.
And Christian?
Me? No,
It's
yeah.
never too late.
We're just trying to learn our lines, basically.
Yeah. That's really, that's the job. I mean, right? Definitely my level of awareness of all of that tech stuff has certainly increased, and like I've said before, with the updating of the passwords and all of those things, right? I mean, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and to be taken very, very seriously.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
Christian.
I want to get to a few more audience questions because these have been really good.
Okay. I'm a undergrad film major, and you talked briefly about having a FBI security consultant, and I think that's very interesting. I want to know what that balance was. Was there any meetings or talks about inciting cyber warfare and mass populace, and really what's the balance between the story you want to tell and the intricate technicalities that are such a big part of the show?
Well, we go heavy on the technical details, and then I sort of in the edit room taper it down and kind of finesse and streamline a little bit more. But we don't. I mean, we really go into detail. I mean, my production designer hates me, and because we create all these screens that we then, and at the end of the day, only see a few seconds of. But what's great about it is that, and this is what in general, whenever you do anything, right? It doesn't even have to be a show about hacking. It could be doctors or lawyers, whatever profession it is. When you do the groundwork, when you get detailed, it just starts to feel credible. Whether you put all that stuff into the script or into the dialogue or into the final edit, all the stuff around it starts to contextualize it in a better way that feels a lot more credible and feels a lot realer. People are actually typing on keyboards and seeing the things that they're typing, and the code that we're seeing is actual real code that's been used and things that have been vetted and referenced by our tech consultants. And to your point to the FBI cybercrime, and we're getting plots and ideas from plots from actual stories that they've been sharing with us. So it's all of that kind of adds to that credibility.
All right. Thank you. Hack the planet.
Don't know what that was.
I'm confused.
So we've danced around season 2 details so far. I'm going to give you carte blanche. Besides the fact that everyone loves BD Wong, what can you say about where things are headed and what you're excited about in the second season? I guess this can be open to anybody.
I'm just testing you guys.
What do you
You're going to take it? I don't know, man. I mean,
Well, here's what I will say. I'll say this, because you all know that Grace Gummer was cast, and she's amazing, by the way. And she's
Yes.
so Elliot committed a crime in the first season, and we're gonna see the ramifications of that in the second season. I think that drives a lot of what the second season's all about, and that's why there's that introduction of law enforcement, which was kind of intentionally not shown in the first season. So that opens a whole new dimension there. And then really, I think also the second season is really about these two, like how, that internal struggle, what does that look like? And how are they gonna reconcile that?
Yeah, I mean,
I know, I'm vague.
Christian and Rami, how glad are you that Sam fielded that question for you just now?
oh, totally relieved. I mean, my stock answer is the only thing I can tell you about season 2 is I can't tell you anything about season 2. That's it. That's all I got.
Is there an extra level of just production secrecy now that you know this is a show that not only works, but people want to know a lot about?
Yes.
yeah, I freak out about that stuff.
Yeah.
Has anyone slipped yet?
Yes.
Really?
There was one little tiny slip up.
Oh, man.
That
All right.
wasn't a big
We'll go to the audience.
Hi, my name is Bree. I'm a software engineer. And I'm curious mostly for Sam, with current events, especially the case around Apple and, lots of talk around the impact and effect of information and technology, even in, the wars that we're fighting in the Middle East. I'm wondering, you're talking about having so much of season 2 kind of baked and written and you know where it's going. So how do you, or is it even part of your process to work in some of those current event things that are happening? What are kind of the considerations around that? Is that part of your process to make commentary on kind of what's happening now?
I don't know if it's to make commentary, but it's to bring it up and have a conversation about it. Like I mentioned before about the encryption thing, which is what you're talking about in terms of the Apple FBI debate. And by the way, and we talked to our FBI consultants about this because they have a very strong point of view that encryption should allow for this sort of third-party side door thing, which I am totally opposed to, and I'm on Tim Cook's side, that we should have encryption. But that goes back to, I'm not actually trying to, that was before this whole Apple FBI thing happened. That was something that was already baked in thematically because, like I said before, I think privacy is going to be a huge issue in the next decade or two. And hopefully, and then the problem is I don't think people understand the nuances of that debate between Apple and the FBI. And if our show at least contributes to that conversation, brings up that conversation again, I think it'll help in terms of getting people to finally join this debate because I think it's a really important one.
Thank you.
Is there, in that sense, is there a responsibility in portraying tech in a realistic way that you do have to make this approachable for people so that they are informed? Because that could be performing part of a service on your part.
Well, approachable, but not at the sacrifice of authenticity. So I'm not going to dumb it down for anyone. But I feel like if you keep bringing it up and you do it in a credible way and you show both sides so that they kind of understand the debate a little bit, I mean, ultimately, it just gets people hopefully interested or invested in wanting to learn more about it.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Dom, and I am a security engineer, so I've been really enjoying the show. And it's so often that I'll go to a security talk where they will define a hacker as a white, testosterone-driven young male. I was actually curious, was the fact that you had technical roles with females casted a conscious decision? Was it just, it happened? Did you want to make a statement with that? Or was it just like, fuck that, that's not true?
I'm sorry, I missed that part about
Sorry, I'm shorter than the mic is.
I
was
thought
just
she was
wondering
going to
if-
talk about my lack of testosterone.
No, I mean, I believe the question is, correct me if I'm wrong, was App Society is made up of men and women. Was that split a conscious decision on your part to buck the trend of the angry
Yeah,
white male.
I mean, I gotta be honest. Why are there not more women in infosec and hacking, like, and white hat hackers or coders in tech in general? I mean, I think that's bullshit, and I definitely want to see more of that. I don't know if I consciously set out to make a statement like that. Maybe subconsciously. I just also happen to love female characters, and I think Darlene and Trenton are kind of interesting. I mean, that's where I go to first before I start thinking, getting on the soapbox and start making statements. But if it encourages that, great.
I mean, Angelina Jolie wasn't hackers though, so there's that.
That's true. So yeah.
Next audience question.
Hi, my name is Michaela Adams. I'm a programmer at Co-op Radio, and I have a show called What's Your Status? It's 91.7. And I actually, I had a question regarding writing because I'm about to graduate high school and go to college. I'm interested in media studies, but I also want to write books and movies. So what would you say is the best advice to a young writer trying to make an interesting story and craft something original without copying someone that may have mentored them or someone they had looked up to?
I would just say read. You want to write books or you want to write screenplays?
Both.
Both?
Yes.
I would just say read a lot of books and read a lot of screenplays, especially of your favorite movies. That's what got. Then you start to see how you can write different ways. Because there's not one way to write a screenplay. And then honestly, I'll tell you this: after you do all that, take an acting class, because these two will tell you you can get a script that could be a good script but poorly written for an actor, versus a script that maybe is okay but is greatly written for an actor. Because at the end of the day, as much as you can have a tightly structured plot and all of that, it's, in my opinion, really about characters and really about how interesting those characters are and those choices that the characters make. And an acting class would really help in that department.
Thank you.
You took an acting class.
I did.
What was that?
I played FDR in the Annie musical.
Did you?
I did, in high school. That's why he turns up in season 5. There you go. I'm in Mr. Robot. You guys saw me. Maybe you didn't. All right, I was in there. I thought it was pretty good.
Pretty memorable.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What is up with you today? Have you guys been seeing this?
Dude, he's directing every episode.
Lay off.
I mean, the questions have been really good, and thank you everyone for who asked them. But one of the things that's been so exciting by the show is the fan response has been so fervent, and people really embrace the show. I mean, what is your experience been meeting people who love the show and discussing it in general, I guess? Let's go to Christian.
Oh, God. I haven't talked in a while, no. It's been great. Look, people have been extraordinarily enthusiastic. You know, Rami and I, we traveled here together yesterday, which was very weird for people. Like, you know, us just standing online at the airport together, you know. I was like,
a lot of people doing this.
Yeah.
They started looking around for cameras.
That's
like,
right.
Maybe
That's
they're
right.
filming.
A lot of, I'm not really here, and it's all that stuff. So, it's been incredible. Really, really fun.
You get a lot of Mr. Robot yells in
A lot of
New York.
Mr. Robot yells. You get a lot of Mr. Robot yells. So it's fun. It's fun to be doing this.
But besides people shouting at you, it seems like people just want to share it with people and get excited about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I love that all my nerds out there are getting into it, and I love that they appreciate the tech, the authenticity and the tech side of it, because those are the people I grew up with. So that probably means more to me than anything else.
So before we wrap up, are the three of you now heading back into the bunker that you stay in when not shooting scenes from season 2? I mean, is there a lot of pressure in guarding all this information that you have or are going to have?
I mean, I'm very paranoid, as these guys, as everybody who knows me probably can attest. So it's not different for me. I was this paranoid during season 1, and everybody was like, dude, no one knows the show. I'm like, no one cares. You don't need to protect these scripts. Not one person has seen a frame or knows who you are. But yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for coming out here and celebrating Mr.
Thank you,
Robot.
everyone.
Thank you, South by
Seriously.
Southwest.
Thank you, South by Southwest.
I don't know if you've seen the massive Ferris wheel that's on West 4th and Congress, but you can go today and tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. and you can go ride the Ferris wheel. And if you have not seen Season 1 of Mr. Robot, it is available at usanetwork.com and on demand. Check out the whole thing; it's very great. Thank you so much for coming out.
Woo!
Thank you.